You've spoken recently about some pretty big news. Congratulations, by the way. How are you feeling at the moment?
Thanks. Yeah, so I recently announced I'm pregnant. I think before getting into any pregnancy content, it's always a good idea to just issue a trigger warning. Like
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
obviously important to be aware of anyone experiencing infertility or loss, but I had also found pregnancy content really triggering, just not knowing when my time would come. So
Yeah.
I think even if you're someone who's exploring when might be the right time, if you're in the right environment, if you're with the right partner. I think pregnancy, even if you just want to have kids, I think pregnancy content can be really triggering. So I just want to put that out there because it had been triggering for me, watching
Mm.
people's IVF journeys served as a reminder, maybe I'll experience hardship. Watching people freeze their eggs was a reminder that I hadn't done that. Watching
Yeah.
people announce that they're pregnant was a reminder that they're doing something that I felt like I couldn't. So for
Mm.
me, I'd been delaying having kids for about 5 years. I just didn't really feel like that was something I could do in my industry, in my role. I felt like it would be quite a selfish decision for me to do that. And so I'd been definitely telling myself this narrative that I just shouldn't do it. And
Yeah.
then I found out I was pregnant and it was a surprise. And I just found myself not feeling that happy,
Yeah.
feeling quite scared, feeling quite guilty. All of that selfishness was coming up. And so I wanted to just be really honest about the nuance involved with pregnancy because I think we're often so used to seeing really happy, positive announcements, and that's amazing. And that's so worthy. And those are
Totally.
definitely real emotions. But I think when you're someone who has been quite unsure, you can feel like there's something wrong with you in the moment that you find out you're pregnant. So I documented that and just told my whole story. And I think in doing that, I was just able to make more people feel seen. And that was kind of the point, just to put something out there that would hopefully make less people feel alone.
Yeah, and I absolutely actually just got goosebumps. I feel like what the way you said it struck me. I will say, and I don't know if I'll keep this in, but I am also pregnant, not too far behind you. And oh yeah, I'm like getting almost emotional because when I saw your post, that was how I had been feeling. I hadn't been as excited as I expected. I had been quite
Mm,
anxious. I'd been confused, like every emotion under the sun. And
yeah,
I felt like something was wrong with me. Like I was like, why am I not so excited? And obviously I am excited, but I feel like it's not spoken about, like how life changing that news is. And you also
yeah,
can feel quite alone in that.
absolutely. And then the fact that you have to keep it to yourself for
Yeah.
12 weeks, or like the rules say, I
Yeah.
shouldn't tell anyone. So it really adds to that feeling of isolation. It's also, I mean, I'm in my second trimester now and I feel worlds different, to my
For
first
sure.
trimester. That first trimester is so hard emotionally, physically, but you're also like grieving
Mm,
yourself as you've ever known it. Your
yes.
life is changes in an instant. Your sense of self almost changes in an instant, and
Yeah.
you're trying to work out what that means for you. And that looks different for everyone. And it's not like we're ungrateful. Like, I'm so grateful
Oh,
I'm in this
absolutely.
position. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've had like a couple of scares throughout my pregnancy already, and it's just really made me feel like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for this. And I just can't imagine experiencing loss and just that added layer of
My
grief and
God.
complexity. So it's not like we're ungrateful, and yeah, we don't take for granted how fortunate we are, but I also think we should be able to speak about the complexity and to speak
Yeah.
about how layered the emotions are, because it's something that probably isn't given enough airtime. And I think it
No.
just adds to that isolation and change where we're already experiencing and trying to process.
Yeah. And feeling it like I've never felt like I had to feel a certain way to people.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like such a bizarre
Yeah.
thing. Like to like you almost have to like put on a bit of a show.
Yeah.
I
Do you know
just
what's so weird is like I I've had really mixed emotions to my news. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but there were some people that I told where it really added to my guilt and it
yeah,
reminded me exactly why I'd been scared. I was like, oh God,
yeah,
I was right to feel like I might be judged for this because I'm already finding myself in a position where I'm having to convince someone I can do this. Like I'm already being doubted. And so
not
those
good.
first, few conversations that reminded me why I'd been scared then they kind of extinguished any little bit of joy I did have.
Oh,
And then
I'm
I
sorry.
remember I finally started opening up to a couple of friends, and one of my friends like screamed and was crying and hugged me.
Mm,
And I was like, oh my God. And then I started crying and I was like, oh, this is so weird. Like, this is actually the first person I've told who's been overjoyed and responded just so positively. And I was like, okay, I can be happy about this. But I
yeah,
think, and I don't want to scare people in sharing this story, but I think it's just very natural for women to experience real inconsistencies with
yeah,
who they tell and how people respond. I think it's also determined on what other people might be going on or what other
yes,
people's prejudices are or what other people's experiences are. So
yeah,
I don't really
agreed.
think anyone's to blame. I just think it's a result of how complicated this whole thing is.
Yes, agreed. And like you said, it is such a triggering thing. So
Yeah.
I feel like I've had to be very careful. Like even when people ask me how I'm feeling like absolute death every day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm
Because did
like,
you say you're 11 weeks?
yeah. And I'm expected to be
Oh,
like, I feel amazing. I don't feel amazing. I'm not going to lie
no,
to you.
no.
But,
Honestly,
you know,
I 7 to 11 was the worst for me. Like, I
yeah,
feel like you're in the
in
thick
the
of it.
trenches. Yeah.
I didn't know it could get worse, and it gets worse.
It's not good. Yeah. I just
But
feel
then it gets better.
hungover. Yeah. But
Yes.
I think as well, like something I identified in what you said is like if you have been someone that has put your career sort of in the forefront for a lot of the time and but the same with me, like that is kind of the reason I haven't done it sooner. And it is the reason I probably would have kept putting it off.
Hmm.
And yeah, like it's kind of confronting because you're like, okay, well, like even taking time off, I've never done that in my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, who am I if I'm not this person I am in my career? Like, have you felt that a little bit, the identity stuff? Yeah.
Definitely. I hadn't thought I would take any time off. And I think that was me again, still probably being a little bit embedded in all these previously held beliefs and judgment and stigma. Like, okay, I can do this, but I am now going to have to make this look easy. I'm going to have to make this look like it does not affect my ability to work at all. So I was like
Mm.
trying to be a hero and just saying, you won't even notice. Like it'll be like nothing will change. I just might go away for a week and then I'll be back.
Wow.
And then I actually caught up with our lead investor at Sunroom, and our investors finding out was something that I was worried about.
Yeah.
I felt like, would I be letting them down? Would they wish they didn't invest any? Like, would they think I'm not that serious? Would they think my priorities have changed? Like, how were they going to feel towards me? And so I was really scared. And I then caught up with our lead investor, and he was just amazing. Like he actually said, you have to set the business up to survive without you for 6 months. And hearing that, I was
Wow.
like, holy fuck. Like, me go away for 6 months, like, not
Yeah.
work for 6 months. I'm not going to do that. Um, but I love, and look, I don't know if I am going to do that, but
Yeah.
I really love and value and respect so much that he has given me permission to do that.
Yeah.
And him saying that to me was just this huge relief and weight off my shoulders
Yeah, for
because
sure.
and I think as I reflect on it, it would be very irresponsible of me to not set the business up like that. So I am
True.
going to do that. Like, I will set it up to survive without me for 6 months. I don't know if I will do that,
Yeah,
but it
you
will at
might still.
least, yeah, it'll at least give me the flexibility to take some time if I need. And then it's like a bonus if I'm around. I reckon I will probably last. I think it would be hard for me to last a month, like
Wow.
really hard. Um, just given my whole, just how I am as a person, like I
Yeah.
think I'll find that really hard. But again, and this is why so many women are scared, you really just don't know.
You
I
don't
don't know
know.
what this
Yeah.
pregnancy will be like. I don't know what childbirth will be like. I don't know what kind of child I'm going to have. I don't
No.
know if in the moment I see this little thing, if I'm just going to think, oh, I need to be with you 24/7 for the next 6 months,
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know.
You don't know.
So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a privilege to be able to give yourself that space. But I also
Mm.
just think it's really important to have people around you that are giving you permission to do that and making you feel supported in doing that.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, because I actually something you posted, I was laughing. You were like saying you were going to be in the hospital, like returning emails and calls or something. And I was like, surely not.
Oh, oh no. I mean, I really just don't know.
You don't know.
Um, yeah, but I think also, like, in all of these conversations, it's been really good because in everything I've written and put out there, I really said from the start, I don't want any of that, like, just you wait type energy.
No.
And so I haven't had any of that, which has been
Good. The unsolicited.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't had any of that, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
But I've already started to get like a little taste of, I posted something on my stories the other day saying I really missed smoked salmon. And then I had all these people in my DMs telling me about how I can still eat smoked salmon.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, do you really think I'm going to listen to some random person I've never met before telling me the different ways I can eat smoked salmon? Like, I live
No.
in fucking America. The food standards over here are ridiculous. Like, trust me, you would not just risk it at a restaurant because you want smoked salmon.
Wow.
But I just started to get that sense of, oh, there are probably just going to be people that tell you how
A
they've
hundred
done it
percent.
a
A
lot.
hundred percent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like going to be a whole other thing to navigate is those boundaries. And, I'm sure you're a very independent person, as am I. Like, I do things my way and I do not want interference. And so that's going to be a challenge, I think.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, my sisters and mum are all like pediatric nurses, and my
Oh,
brother-in-law is a pediatric plastic surgeon.
oh,
And I'm like,
wow.
I've already got access to enough unsolicited advice, so I really don't
You really
need
don't need
anyone
it.
else's.
You want to like put
Yeah.
a sticker on you, like, no unsolicited advice, please. Please don't
Yeah.
touch me either.
Yeah, I'm good.
Um, yeah, so I feel like we've covered a lot about the challenges and like juggling. Um, do you think though that like, yeah, it like, what do you think are the biggest challenges for women that do want to do both, like
Mm,
have their career, have a family? And do you think we have made progress? Because
mm.
as much as we have, I think you realize when you're in it, like the options aren't that wide,
Yeah.
well, for some businesses they are, but it really is, you go on leave or you do childcare, like that's it.
Yeah, I think it's such a good question. I think we have made progress. Like, I think back to even my mum who is a nurse, and back when she was younger, if you were a
Mm,
nurse that got pregnant, you actually did have to leave the workforce because you were no longer deemed as physically able.
true.
So I think we've definitely made progress in areas, and I do think Australia does have some great protective laws in place. I think the issue is it doesn't really matter what laws or policies you have if women don't feel safe to take up
Mm,
those options. And so I actually think where the issue lies is more within a business, cultural, conversational level, because I went out on my Instagram stories to check, I can't be the only one who's felt like it has to be one or the other.
yeah.
So I ran a poll and I asked women if they felt scared to tell their employer that they were
Mm,
pregnant. And 68% of women said yes, and over
wow.
3,000 women responded. And I
Wow.
also asked the question, do you feel like having a baby would jeopardize your career? And 86% of them
Wow.
said
Oh,
yes.
that
Yeah,
is
so
so crazy.
that is a huge problem. Like, that
Mm,
shows there are issues within businesses. If women don't
yeah.
feel safe to say I'm pregnant, they feel scared about navigating that conversation. That means they do feel like it's going to impact them. And they're saying that as well. They're
100%.
saying, I feel like it'll impact my career. So I think if I was running a big business, I would actually be running a survey internally myself. I would be asking questions like this and trying to
Yeah.
identify if there is a cultural issue within this business that makes women feel like they're not safe or they won't be celebrated having a baby. I think a lot of employers still view pregnancy as a threat to productivity. And
Mm,
that's where this fear comes from. We don't know if it will be celebrated when we tell
yeah.
someone, or if they're gonna, overlook us for pay rises, stop giving us promotions. Like, is our job truly going to be safe?
Yeah.
And so I think that the businesses that get this though will get ahead, because there's women graduating uni at a higher rate than men in Australia. That means
Oh,
they're going to be
wow.
entering the workforce more. They're going to have these needs. And so the businesses that show they get this and care about this and have initiatives in place that people feel safe to take on, those will be the companies that get the best talent. But I really think it comes down to there are businesses that are leaders in this space. Like, they offer egg freezing for their employees. They have
Wow.
equal paid parental leave, no matter
Yeah.
what gender you are. It's just if you've had a baby, you can go and take this huge chunk of leave. And so I think those kinds of things make the conversation a little bit less gendered as well. Like, how can we share this fear? It
So
kind of
true.
sucks that it's
It's
really
all
women
on
who
us.
have to
Yeah.
deal with this. So, how can we get to places where more fathers are taking parental leave and exiting businesses for longer periods of time and sharing that load? That would mean that more people have experience with taking time off and
Yeah.
managing how they feel when they take time off and how they return to work when they take time off, which just makes everything a little bit more equal and everyone a little bit more aware. Um, but I like don't have the answers. I just really think
No.
it's been good to talk about this stuff, because I don't think it's really been spoken about, that fear and the fear from within a workplace. And if we can keep talking about that, we can make more businesses aware of it and it can be something that they actually prioritize.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about this because, yeah, it's one of the first things that comes up when you find out. I feel you're like, oh God, I'm gonna have to tell.
Mm.
um,
Yeah,
and what
I've
am I
had
gonna do?
women.
Like, what's my plan? Like,
Yeah, exactly. I've had women message me saying, I cried when I told my employer and I
wow.
apologized. Like, there are so many women apologizing in the moment when they share they're pregnant, but
Yeah.
it also is on the other end. Like, I've had many women reach out to me who have experienced loss, and they're in a
Mm,
workplace where they've never felt safe to tell their employer they're pregnant. Now they're dealing with a pregnancy loss and they can't tell their employer because they don't want their employer to know they're even trying to start a family. So they're just grieving in silence.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a whole other thing, isn't it? Like, how many women are out there just grieving in silence in general, let alone in workplaces? Like, it's just unimaginable.